Hello friends, welcome to a new video. I am Bonnie and today we are setting up for May in my bullet journal. And despite the fact that I've had some great themes thus far into the year, I haven't been this excited for a Bujo theme in a while, which is definitely weird because this theme is very bright and colorful and springy and nature inspired, which is so far out of my comfort zone, but oh my god, do I absolutely love it. Okay, so for this month's theme, I was very adamant about using these specific pens. They are the Connector line by Faber-Castell, and they are probably targeted towards children, but I have them, and I actually enjoyed using them quite a bit. They have a really nice color selection, and they streak because they are water-based, but here for some reason I didn't really mind it. But I use a lot of colors, sometimes following the inspo images, other times just doing whatever I wanted. I had like 3 to 4 yellows, 3 reds, 2 pinks, 2 oranges, 2 blues, 4 different greens, a gray and a black and a brown, I think. And oh, I used one Tombow, which is like a muted grayish lavendery periwinkle color from the Grayscale set. It is the N60. And whenever I've seen this pen used, I always was a little miffed that it is called a gray, because it is definitely not a gray. In my opinion, it is an insult to all of the grays out there because it's clearly purple. But it is the one color that I was missing from the connector set that I have. I had the pack of 60 and they didn't have a light enough purple for me or for what I needed, so this one came in handy. I also used a white paint pen and then just Microns for the functional outlines and such. So the inspo for this theme comes from this one picture that my friend sent me back when she sent the theme lineup for this year. And again, I'm using a different notebook than the one she gifted me, but I'm still doing the themes specifically for this one because I couldn't let this theme go. I fell in love with it as soon as I saw the image. I'm not sure what it was because it's flowers and fruits and bugs, and I despise bugs in real life. I cannot, even butterflies. If I see a butterfly come at me, it might as well be a wasp, okay? I cannot do with bugs, I'm sorry. But I loved drawing them here. Those crawly things, whatever they are, maybe beetles, were my favorite thing to draw in this illustration. I went into a tangent, but these illustrations, I have to accredit the designer because she is brilliant. They are by Felicity Bunchan Designs. I hope I did not butcher the name, but I will have her Instagram linked, as well as the Pinterest board, because I went down a rabbit hole to collect enough illustrations by the same artist that had sort of a similar vibe, because I feel like she has collections, right? So she has a collection of the illustrations that I used in this theme, which are sort of the same but also varied. And then she has, in the same art style and, overall vibe, she has other illustrations. I think she had some for Easter that were so stinking cute with dainty plants and foliage, but also bunnies. And oh my god, I was like, that is so goddamn cute. But yes, I will obviously have the inspo image on the screen. This is the exact one that my friend sent me, so I thought, you know what, it's gonna be the cover page, and I didn't want to change anything in it because I loved it, so I basically just copied it into the notebook. However, I really didn't want to do any black outlines because in the original image, I suspect it was done with watercolors or some type of paint. I didn't really want to use that here, and I'm really glad that I made that decision way far in advance, and I will talk about that later. But I wanted to use markers and I didn't want to do outlines, but I can't use my regular method of tracing because the carbon paper leaves a really dark outline that usually is covered with paint, so usually I don't mind it, but here again I didn't want any outlines, so I used the good old technique of putting graphite on the back of the paper and tracing it, and it leaves very faint lines, but that is enough to give me a guide but also allow me to erase it if needed. And sometimes I didn't and it wasn't such a big deal, but yes, that is all to say, I didn't want to do any black outlines. And then I really didn't want to take away from the beauty of the illustration or cover it with anything to add the title. So I just lettered May with a very fine brush pen, right where Felicity had her signature initials, FB. So I just lettered May. But I actually, now that I'm looking at it, I'm not really a big fan. And I've been wanting to add some tan paper because it's a feature in this theme on this page. So I'm thinking I might cut a small rectangle the size of the lettering and just cover it and write May there with just a little piece of tan paper, so it's more obvious, I guess, stands out more or whatever. But yes, that is basically the entire cover page. Now we are moving to the monthly log, and here we also have an entire cover design, I guess, or a full page design with a slightly different illustration, still within the same vibe. But because we just finished illustrating the entire cover page, I did this one off camera. And actually, fun fact, I started working on this theme like midway through March, and the reason for that, if you can hear the canaries in the background, I am so sorry. By the way, I have a new mic, so if you find a change in audio quality and if you prefer this one, let me know. Or just tell me your thoughts on the audio quality. So basically, I had a minor surgery on my foot on the 19th of March, and it was supposed to be such a simple procedure, but it left me bedbound for like a month. And thank goodness I had a hobby that could be done from bed, otherwise I would have gone stir crazy. So that is what I worked on while I was recovering. I've been back to walking for a few weeks now, and I'm back to driving as well, so all is good. I have recovered. Anyway, that is what I did while I was bedbound, is work on my bujo, and it saved me, okay? So I worked on that page while I was recovering, as I said, and to make it functional, I turned it into like a tip-in / Dutch door situation. So it flips out and I can have my monthly review beneath it. And on the other side, I wanted a calendar. This is very similar to what I did back in November. So I decided to make the calendar entirely out of craft paper or tan paper because it's a feature, as I've said, for this theme. And I thought, you know what, might as well turn it also into a tip-in to maximize the space underneath it. So I made a small 2-page tan paper booklet, I guess, and glue it down so it's the calendar on top. You flip it out, it also has part of my dashboard. And I just outlined 4 sections or 2 beneath each tip-in so that when I decide on my dashboard categories, I can write them in. And that concludes my monthly log. Now we are getting into the weeklies, and I had really good inspo for this theme regarding the functional parts. There is a few themes that are quite similar to this one in concept, and I really liked what they did regarding the weeklies. So I tried to replicate that, but if you have watched any of my previous videos, you know that I prefer double weeklies or a week per singular side of the spread, I guess. I couldn't do it with this theme. I tried, but I didn't like the proportions. I didn't like how crowded it looked, so I decided for this one theme, I'm gonna have singular weeklies on each spread, if that makes sense. So the week will take the entire 2 pages, if that makes sense. I'm always a little confused about the terminologies of page spread, yada yada yada. Anyway, so that is to say, we have 6 sections here, and it's a single week. And I have functional blocks and then decorative blocks. And the decorative blocks are like insights into the illustration that I use. I think I use maybe 1 or 2 here that extend beyond the dimensions that I gave for the illustration, and that is something that I wanted specifically. I wanted it to be clear that the illustration extended beyond the boundaries I gave it, if that makes any sense at all. I wanted it contained in the box that I gave it, but I didn't want it to have finite edges, if that makes any sense at all. As I said, I probably used two illustrations here. One, the main element of it being a pear, which is so nice, so cute. I love it. I probably used two different yellows on this singular spread because I got confused on which one I used previously. And then the other illustration has cherries, which are so beautiful. And I just went with the colors, whatever I felt like. Sometimes I matched the colors, especially maybe for the flower here. Other times I went by whatever I wanted, to be completely honest. The one thing I focused on is using the dark, deep olivey earthy green for the main fruit or main flower, if that makes sense, in each decorative block. And then I made 6 sections for the weeklies, and they have this, effect as if they are a tip-in or a sticky note. And I made 2 of them into craft paper to bring that element in, and I really like how it looks. The outer outline is made with the Micron 04, and then the skipped line is made with the Micron 03. And then I used the finest calligraphy brush pen to letter the days of the week with a joined weekend in my regular cursive, which is the font that I used for this entire theme, because honestly I was looking into a special unique font to fit the vibe of this theme, but then once I found out that I couldn't walk and I had to be on my back with my leg elevated for extended periods of time, I know I'm not gonna have the patience or the energy to trace or make a font for this theme. So I decided, you know what, keep it simple, keep it classic, use my calligraphy that God gave me. Okay, so now for the second weekly. This is also a singular weekly on both pages, and I went with this vertical layout with 3 sections on each page, and each section has a small square on top of it or below it for the decorative block. And here I was supposed to add tan paper some way somehow, but I totally forgot, so I didn't. But I am still looking into ways to add it. I just haven't found a way yet. I'm looking into, I thought of ripping small pieces and sticking them on top and the bottom of the entire page, like I do in the monthly review. You will see in a bit. But anyway, I went ahead and started on the decorative blocks with the main fruit being strawberries, which I am so glad that I had a few strawberries to draw here. I've been wanting to draw strawberries for a while, and they are so easy and fun to draw. So they peak in almost all of the creative blocks. And I believe I used just one illustration or one inspo image for this one because they were so small that I could position them to view different elements and not feel too repetitive. It still is, but it's fine. I have to mention that I did not follow the style of the inspo image to a T, because in the inspo image, if it's used with paints or acrylic pens or whatever, they used lighter colors on top of darker colors and vice versa, and I couldn't really do that with water-based markers. So I either added details with a darker pen or I just used a white paint pen. But yes, there are certain details in the original inspo that I didn't really capture because I did a test page, a test weekly. We are gonna see it after this one, and I did the white or lighter details on top of the darker colors, and I absolutely hated it. I really hated it, actually. I have no words other than that. And I actually added there other elements like squiggles and lines and dots and such, and that also ruined it for me. So you're gonna actually see it in a minute. I'm just gonna glue that page. Here I added the headers and then the outlines. I wasn't sure how to close off the writable area. I didn't want it to touch the line where the creative block starts, or the decorative block starts, so I left it. But actually in the close-up you will see that I color corrected with a white paint pen that area, and just left one dot space between the writable block and the decorative block, so it floats on top or below, if that makes sense, and that fixed it. So here's the weekly that I wasn't such a big fan of. I finished it and I didn't like it. It didn't give up the same vibe. So I'm showing it here to you, but I will probably just use some double-sided tape or leave it just to mess with my perfectionism. But because I knew we are gonna have a lot of drawing in this video, I actually did the two weeklies left off camera, one being the classic layout of separating the page into 4 sections, and then I just joined the two leftists, I guess, into a big decorative block. And then the last weekly is almost a replica of the first weekly, except with a different illustration, and then also 7 sections instead of 6. Now we are getting into the last layout to set up in this video, which is the monthly review. So I wasn't exactly sure how to go about this spread in particular. I thought about replicating what I did on the monthly log and have a full page design and then a full page of craft paper, just opposites. So the monthly in review would be the illustration, the monthly media summary is going to be craft paper, but I didn't really like that. It didn't mesh well in my brain. So I, kept circling with the ideas that I have until I came up with this one, actually the day of filming, which is just a big horizontal decorative panel at the bottom, and I would have craft paper that blends into the illustration, I guess. And that is what I went with, and I actually love it. I love it a lot. But the only thing that I don't like about it is that I ripped the edges of the tan paper that is gonna blend into the illustration, and I didn't use ripped edges anywhere else in this layout, which is why I'm going back into like the second weekly and I'm like, can I add ripped pages there just to make it cohesive, I guess, and have some repetition and similarities. But anyway, I used, I think, all of the illustrations from this theme to create this decorative panel. So we have the pear, we have the cherries, we're gonna see the strawberries again, the peaches or oranges, whichever they are featured, and also of course the lemon. So all of them are there with different greens and different florals, looking so beautiful. I had a lot of fun coloring this illustration in and adding details and highlights with the white paint pen. And then I prepared 2 ripped sections because I'm very particular about how the rips should look and such, and rounded the corners of those before gluing them in or taping them in with double-sided tape here. And then for the actual functional part of this spread, first I lettered with a slightly larger brush pen May in Review at the top on the left page, and then May in Media at the top of the right page. And I decided on media instead of books because I've been watching and rewatching my favorite movies recently. Watch me as I don't consume any media in May just because I put that title in. But anyway, I left the right page blank because that will be filled at the end of the month. But then the May in review, I sectioned it into 6 small sections, sort of like the sections of the weeklies and such. And I didn't use any tan paper there, but I outlined them and added the skip lines, and I was supposed to add more of that stuck in paper effect or sticky note effect, if that makes sense, but I totally forgot, so we only have one. But again, I made 6 sections, one for highlights, one for challenges, one for memories, one for accomplished, one for favorites, and the last one for finances. And I used again the finest brush pen that I have to letter all of the headers. With that, we have reached the end of this plan with me. I am so happy with how this theme turned out. Oh my god, I love it. I'm looking at it through the camera and I'm happy with everything in it. The colors, the medium that I used, the tan paper, the lettering, the outlines, everything came together beautifully. But I must say you have to watch May in Project B because that one is the most spectacular theme of all time. Even though I love this one, that one takes it out of the park. So stay tuned and thank you for watching.